Hello, beautiful beings. So, this is Donna of Love Consciousness. And what I wanted to speak into today was claiming back our divine sovereignty. Okay, now this is something that I've probably been really working with and deepening my level of awareness and understanding of what that actually means for around 18 months now. And it's a complete game changer once you can really grasp what this actually means. And there's so many layers and levels to claiming your divine sovereignty. And I want to just speak into that a little bit. Um, I speak into things just from my own experience. So I always say just take what resonates with you and discard the rest. We're all on our own journey, and we will embody things in our own unique way and come to our own conclusions about things. But if any of this is helpful, then that's great. Um, so one of the first things that I recommend, and it was kind of the starting point of really beginning to understand, um, the embodiment, I guess, of my own sovereignty, was working with what is known as the 12-dimensional light pillar and shield. And it's a process of really visualizing and going through a process of anchoring yourself in to a shielding system, a pillar, a light pillar. And the process, what it does is it allows you to anchor into all 12 dimensions that we potentially have available to us. So obviously, humanity as a whole, um, we have been largely operating only up to a three-dimensional consciousness. Um, and in actual fact, we have 12 dimensions available to us, and they correlate with our DNA. So, most human beings, again, over, a very, very long time, have only actually had activated, 2.5 to 3 strands of DNA, so 3 dimensions. And by going through this process and anchoring yourself into your pillar, what you're doing in essence is when you anchor into that 12-dimensional frequency, um, it can begin to like a cleansing shower, if you like. It can begin to work through the blockages. It can begin to work through the channels that we've been disconnected from. Lift the dead light, for example, within our energy fields. We have all of these channels and axitonal lines that run from our physical through all of our energy bodies, through all of the dimensions that we have available to us. Um, but we have been largely disconnected from our full potential, from our higher consciousness, because these channels have been closed down. And so, working with this high vibrational 12-dimensional energy, it begins to cut through the layers, so to speak. Um, we've been living in what's known as an inverted system. Okay, we've been connected to an inverted system. So, again, very basically, without going too deep into it, what does that mean? It means that everything is inside out. Everything's back to front, everything's reversed. So, what I mean by that is we have largely gone through our life thinking and feeling that what we need we will get from outside of us somewhere. You know, um, I need love. I need to find someone outside of me to give me that love. Um, whatever it is, on every level, we seek from outside of us. And so one of the main things that I feel, again, for me, in claiming my sovereignty is to really begin to embody and understand at a very, very deep level um, that everything you need is inside of you, you know. So you have to really begin to look inside. And when you're feeling like you need, for example, you know, love, we need to learn to love ourselves. I mean, we've all heard of this concept, you know, on some level, I'm sure. Um, our experience of reality, our reality creation, um, and again, this is my understanding of it. When things are happening outside of me, I am now aware that these things are mirroring something inside of me. And this was really key a few years ago, because what it then helped me to do is it helped me to identify my more hidden aspects, what you might call your shadow self. So if you're continuously drawing into your reality creation, your field, situations and people that are showing what you might describe as negative um, traits, negative energy, what I began to do was look and see why, like a magnet, I was drawing those experiences into my reality. And in doing so, what I was beginning to see is that I held those patterns. It doesn't mean that you portray those behaviors as such, but it might mean that you hold those patterns, and it gives you a chance to work through those aspects of you. Um, Responsibility, that's a huge one. You know, when you realize that everything has been created from the inside out, can you take responsibility for your creation? Can you take responsibility for your part in your creation? Um, can you step out of blame, you know, blaming the world, blaming other people, blaming your parents, you know, for the things that you've gone through and the things that you're experiencing, and take responsibility, and begin to move out of that victim mentality and into what you truly are in essence, which is a creator being. And, you know, that's a big one, because you know, there's things that happen to us in our lives that we might not feel as fair. You know, I suffered from depression, for example, and it's easy to be the victim when you suffer from depression. But can we actually move into a space where we can expand our consciousness enough and be aware that the reason why these experiences happened to us is simply because we hold the patterns um, within our physical being, and they might have been passed on through our ancestry, for example. You know, when we're born into this physical body, our body is part of an ancestral line that holds certain patterns. And if we hold the patterns, we're going to experience in our reality these patterns. Um, and so that's very much part of beginning to work through aspects of your unconsciousness, aspects of your shadow self, beginning to realize that, you know, everything is in a way happening for you to learn and to embody more and more of the awareness that you are the creator, that you're creating this experience that you're having, as opposed to, you know, things happening to you. And so again, it's switching everything inside out. Things aren't happening to you, things are happening through you. You know, your eyes being projectors. Your eyes aren't just seeing and picking up the light that allows you to see your reality. Your eyes are also projecting your experience of reality through you, through all your filtering systems, through all the energy that you carry, all those patterns from your ancestry, for example, all the patterns that you've created and lived in this life. Um, you know, it's there's so many layers to it and so many levels to it, but until you can take responsibility that you are in fact creating this experience through you, you are going to become a little bit stuck, because again, you think things are happening to you and not through you. And so when we take the responsibility that even though we might not have firsthand created the patterns as such, although on a larger scale we did. Um, let's say we were talking about ancestral patterns. If we can just take responsibility that we hold that energy, we can begin to do the work to transmute that, alchemize that energy, release those patterns from our being. And in doing so, um, we begin to shift into higher levels of awareness. We begin to release um, the density of those patterns that we are carrying, that we are projecting out into our reality. So our reality can change quite quickly when we begin to do that, and our relationships and the way that we interact with people can change quite quickly because we begin to understand our part, in creating what we experience. So, really kind of understanding that when you build your pillar, that is your space. Understand your space, and everything that you consume, okay? Everything's energy. What are you consuming day to day? Because that's what you're bringing into your pillar, and that's the energy that you're bringing into your being that is then moving through you and then being projected out into your reality creation that you're experiencing, that you're feeling, that you're thinking. So what people are you having interactions with? What permission are you giving to other beings that you're having interactions with? What food are you consuming? There's a form of energy. What social media, what energy are you consuming in that sense? What are you watching on TV? What movies are you watching? What energy are you consuming? And so again, you begin to become more aware in your pillar that you want to keep your pillar clean and pure. And do you really want to really engage in things that don't make you feel good, that might disturb your peace? Now, I would say here that there's no judgment and there's no right or wrong. It's all an experience, and that's okay. And even when you have the awareness, it's okay to, let's say, for example, it's okay for me to watch a horror movie that might be darker or denser energy patterns that I'm consuming. Um, that's okay for me to do that, but I am now aware that I am bringing that energy in to my field. And so know your space. This is about learning to stand in our own energy, our own pillar, our own consciousness. Do you know what your own consciousness is? Do you know what you are? So it's like learning and embodying your own energy, knowing what energy is yours and knowing what energy is coming from maybe an external source. Agreements, quantum entanglement, so on so many levels we quantumly entangle with other beings, and not just in this space, and throughout all places and spaces that we consciously reside. We've made these agreements, and so we have these kind of energetic cords, so to speak, that entangle us with other beings. And what that kind of means is that on an energetic level, when you connect in that way because you've made an agreement, there's a structure. Everything creates a structure. It's a creation of some kind of information, of data that you then share with that other being, and that energy will be coming into your field on some level. And the being that you made the agreement with, on some level, you're kind of like connected and you're sharing energy, you're sharing consciousness. And so that was another level of like really claiming sovereignty, is understanding where you are quantumly entangling with other beings and claiming back your consciousness. So actually, verbally deciding that you are now in a place where you want to cancel any agreements that do not serve your highest purpose, cancelling any agreements with any being that operates outside of the law of one, the unified field of love. Um, And again, everything that operates outside of the unified field of love is inverted consciousness. It's consciousness where it needs energy from outside of itself to sustain itself, which is very much where we have been, to coming into realizing that we have everything that we need inside of us. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of filtering systems that we've created that this higher vibrational energy has to begin to work through. With that, we have to have learnings or realization after realization, so that we can really stop creating into the old way of being, where we think things are happening to us, and we can start creating from the inside out. Um, and, there's so many layers to that. It doesn't happen immediately, but just beginning to understand that simple concept hopefully will begin to put you on to a path of really making that transition, um, of standing in your pillar, of understanding your own space, of understanding that you want to claim back your consciousness, that perhaps has been held in other places or spaces or connected to other beings. It's no longer serving you. Take responsibility for your own creation, because it is happening from the inside out. Move out of victim mentality and stop blaming the world, and understand that if you release the patterns from within you, you stop experiencing those thoughts, feelings. Um, and the more and more of us that do this over the planet, um, as we begin to really anchor into our own energy, and we stop all that interference from coming in, and we're creating from this place of knowing that it's all happening on the inside out, we can really begin, on a collective level, begin to shift um, the whole world, everything that's happening, all the chaos that's unfolding throughout um, the collective experience, because we are actually creating that. The more we feed in to everything that's happening out there, I call it the circus show, everything that's happening in the circus show, the more we connect and attach to that, the more we continue to create those patterns and feed into that. And so it's claiming your sovereignty back is really understanding that you are creating your level of reality. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey of letting go of lots and lots of false constructs that you have created, false personas that you've created that aren't really who you are, but you've created them perhaps as survival mechanisms or coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, as a way of surviving um, the life that you've journeyed through, which has been difficult, for many, many people, very, very difficult. Um, so we do have to let go of all that stuff, and that can feel very painful, and it can even feel like we're going through like almost like a death experience at times, as we transmute, as we let go, as we drop those structures that we've created, and then reintegrate that energy back into wholeness. So it's quite a journey, and I hope that my little explanation of, there's so much more to it, but my little explanation of what really coming back into your sovereignty means. And two things that I would highly recommend to anyone and everyone: begin building your 12D pillar. Okay. Actively go through the process of building your pillar every single day if possible, even up to twice a day, 3 times a day, because when you build that, you're creating that field, you're creating that energy in your field. And when you begin to build it, the structure that you have created will only last 2-3 hours at a time. And so if we keep recreating it, we're strengthening it and we're strengthening it and we're strengthening it. And then what will happen is you will naturally begin to connect into that 12 dimensional energy, and that will assist you in really beginning to move through those denser patterns that we want to release. Um, so that's the first thing that I highly, hugely, hugely recommend. It's a game changer. Okay. The second thing, commanding your space. Um, Commanding out of your space any consciousness that is not serving your highest purpose. Learn to know your space. Learn to understand the energy that you're interacting with, that you're consuming, what's in your field, what is in your space. Do you know your space? Do you know what's yours, and do you know what's someone else's? So command your space, command out any energy that doesn't serve you, command out any energy that doesn't serve the sacred law of one in the unified field of love. And what begins to happen is you get a clearing, because everything is through consent. So any energy that is in your field, it's there because you have consented to it being in your field, in one form or another. And we often consent very unconsciously, um, as simple as, someone demanding something of us, and we want to say no, but instead we go along with it. That's a form of consent. So becoming more aware of what we're consenting to, because really at the end of the day, as a sovereign being, nothing can really interfere with you without your permission. So what are you consenting to? So that's a real game changer, commanding your space. And I'll put some links below. Um, Cancelling all the agreements that you've made through time and space. It's another big one, but really beginning to understand that. And my experience is we can do these things, but what that does is it really sets us on this deep inner journey, and we do have to go through realizations, initiations. We can't say that we claim to take responsibility, yet here we are not taking responsibility, for example. We can't say that we are giving ourselves all the love that we need from within, while seeking and searching for that love out of us. So you've got to embody these things. You can't just say that you're doing them and not actually actively embody them. So it's an embodiment process as well. We're really anchoring it into the physical part of us. So I hope that this has been helpful, and please leave comments below, ask questions and everything else, and claim your divine sovereignty. So thank you for engaging. If you've made it this far, sending you so much love. Mwah.